The conference room felt too cold. Dr. Hana Lee sat at the metal table and watched the holographic display flicker with images of a green planet below. Verduna 7 looked beautiful from space, like a jewel, like home might look if home wanted to kill you. Captain Doyen Park stood at the front of the room. His face was tired. He had given this briefing 17 times before. 17 teams, 17 failures. The Jade Maw, he said, and the hologram zoomed into a thick forest near the planet's equator. Average survival time is 4 hours. The longest anyone lasted was 11 hours before their beacon went silent. Hana leaned forward. She had studied every report, read every final transmission. The Jade Maw had patterns. She was sure of it. Everyone else just saw chaos and death. The Kalari scouts went in first, Doyen continued. The hologram showed tall, scaled aliens with 4 arms and natural armor plating. They are born hunters. Survival experts. 3 teams. None returned. Another image appeared. These aliens were massive, covered in thick fur with claws like knives. The Vorthians tried next. Rangers who can track prey across frozen wastelands for weeks. They sent 30 of their best. Doyen paused. We recovered 5 bodies. The others simply vanished. An older man at the table cleared his throat. Dr. Quan Cho had been Hana's professor once. Now he was her supervisor and constantly worried about her. The Galactic Colonial Council has made their decision, Quan said. They will sterilize the region from orbit. Burn it clean before establishing human settlements on the safe continents. When? Hana asked. 60 days, Hana stood up. I want to go in. The room went silent. Someone laughed nervously. Quan closed his eyes like he was in pain. Sit down, Hana, Quan said quietly. No. She walked to the holographic display and pointed at the green forest. Every report says the same thing. Immediate hostile contact, coordinated attacks, unpredictable behavior. But look at the data streams. The creatures aren't random. They respond to specific stimuli. They have patterns, Doyen crossed his arms. Every xenobiologist who went down there thought they could figure it out. They all died, because they went in with weapons ready. They went in expecting a fight. Hana pulled up her own research files. Humans are different. We adapt, we learn. We make friends with creatures that should be our enemies. We domesticated wolves when they were still killing us. We made pets of animals that our ancestors feared. Those were earth animals, another officer said. These things have acid spit and crystalline teeth that cut through titanium. I just need 60 days, Hana said. If I fail, you lose 1 scientist. If I succeed, you save an entire ecosystem and learn something that could change how we approach every hostile world in the galaxy. Quan stood and faced her. Hana, please, this is suicide. She met his eyes. You taught me that science requires risk. That understanding requires presence. I'm volunteering. The debate lasted 2 hours. Doyen presented the statistics over and over. Hana countered every argument. In the end, she won. Partly because she was stubborn. Partly because the council was curious. Mostly because they didn't think she would last long enough to matter. 3 days later, Hana stood in the equipment bay. She packed light. Basic survival gear, a medical kit with nanite injectors, her research scanner. 3 months of food rations compressed into bars that tasted like cardboard. Her personal journals, the paper kind, because she liked writing by hand. You're really doing this, a voice said behind her. She turned. Jiho Nam, the dropship pilot, leaned against the doorframe. He was young, maybe 25, with nervous hands that were always moving. I'm really doing this, she confirmed. Jiho walked over and pressed something into her hand. A compass. Old-fashioned, mechanical, with a worn leather case. My grandfather gave me this, he said. He said it always points home. Bring it back to me. Hana felt her throat tighten. Jiho, I can't take this. Yes, you can. Because you're coming back. He tried to smile. You have to. Someone needs to tell me what it's like down there. She hugged the compass to her chest. Deal. The dropship ride down was smooth until they hit the atmosphere. Then everything shook. Hana watched through the window as the green canopy grew larger and larger. From up high, the Jade Maw looked peaceful, like something from a nature documentary. 30 seconds, Jiho called from the cockpit. Hana checked her gear one last time. Her hands were steady. That was good. Fear was useful, but panic would kill her. The dropship settled into a clearing. The door hissed open. Humid air rolled in, thick and green-smelling. Alive. Beacon is active, Jiho said. We'll monitor your vitals. If anything goes wrong, it won't, Hana said. She stepped onto the ramp. Hana? She looked back. Come home. She nodded and walked into the forest. Behind her, the dropship engines roared. Then silence. The kind of silence that wasn't really silent. The forest breathed around her. Leaves rustled. Something called in the distance, high and sharp. Water dripped from massive ferns that towered overhead. Hana took her first real breath of Verduna 7 air. It tasted like rain and soil and something spicy she couldn't name. 20 minutes later, she heard it. A low sound, almost below hearing, a vibration in her bones. She turned slowly and saw it through the undergrowth. 6 legs, sleek body covered in midnight blue fur, eyes that glowed faintly yellow, and teeth. Crystal teeth that caught the filtered sunlight and scattered it like prisms. The creature from the reports, the one they called the Phantom Stalker. It had killed 4 researchers before they could even draw their weapons. Hana's heart hammered. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Instead, she stood very still and watched. The creature watched back. It moved closer. Silent. So silent. Those 6 legs made no sound on the forest floor. It circled her slowly, staying in the shadows, studying her the way she was studying it. Hana noticed its ears. They swiveled independently, tracking sounds she couldn't hear. Its breathing was steady, not aggressive. Not yet. She dropped her scanner. The device hit the ground with a loud clatter. The creature jumped back, its fur standing on end. It hissed, but it was afraid. Afraid of the noise. Hana crouched slowly and picked up the scanner. The creature watched but didn't attack. She made a mental note. Loud sounds. It didn't like loud sounds. Hello, she whispered. I'm going to call you Jinwoo. After my little brother. He was scared of loud noises too. Jinwoo, the crystal-fanged predator, tilted his head. Then he melted back into the forest, disappearing like smoke. Hana let out a shaking breath and wrote in her journal, Day 1, Hour 1, First Contact. Subject designation, Jinwoo. Observation, acoustic sensitivity. Status, alive. She smiled despite her trembling hands. 60 days suddenly seemed possible. The forest rustled around her. Watching, waiting, learning. So was she. The first week tried to kill Hana 6 times. On day 2, she woke to find something hanging above her makeshift shelter. It looked like a snake, but with leathery wings instead of scales. Membrane stretched between its ribs. Its mouth opened in 3 directions, showing rings of tiny needle teeth. It dropped onto her sleeping bag. Hana rolled sideways and scrambled out of reach. The creature hissed and launched itself into the air. Then another appeared. Then 5 more. Then a dozen. They circled her camp in a spiral pattern. Their wings made a humming sound. Not separate sounds. One sound like they were all connected. Like a choir singing the same note. Hana grabbed her audio recorder and caught the frequency. She played it back. The creatures stopped circling. They hovered in place, confused. She changed the pitch slightly. They flew higher. Another adjustment. They scattered into the trees. She called them the choir, not separate hunters. One consciousness in many bodies, and they hunted using sound waves to coordinate. By day 3, her arms were covered in scratches. Her leg had a deep cut from something with claws like broken glass. The medical nanites in her system worked overtime to fight infections. She was tired, so tired. But every injury taught her something new. The tremor sense predators that burrowed underground only attacked when she walked heavily. If she moved lightly, stepping carefully, they ignored her. The acid spitters that lived near the water had terrible eyesight. They hunted by detecting body heat and chemical scents. Covering herself in mud made her nearly invisible to them. On day 5, she met something that almost ended everything. It was twice her height. Covered in quills that dripped something green and toxic. It had arms like a gorilla, but its face was wrong. Too many eyes, no nose. A mouth that opened vertically instead of horizontally. The creature roared. The sound shook the trees. It charged at her, and Hana did the only thing she could think of. She screamed back. The creature stopped, tilted its massive head. She screamed again, louder, putting every bit of fear and anger into the sound. The creature took a step back. Then another. Then it turned and crashed through the undergrowth, disappearing. Hana collapsed against a tree, shaking and laughing and crying all at once. She had screamed at death, and death had blinked first. That night she realized something important. The forest wasn't trying to kill her specifically. The creatures were territorial. They were protecting their space, their food sources, their young, just like animals on Earth. She started mapping territories. Using her scanner, she tracked movement patterns, where creatures hunted, where they slept, where they mated. The forest began to make sense, not as chaos but as a neighborhood, a dangerous neighborhood where everyone had sharp teeth, but a neighborhood nonetheless. By day 8, she could predict ambush points. By day 10, she knew which water sources were safe and which belonged to something hungry. By day 12, she had learned to read the forest's mood based on sound. The forest was always singing. Clicks and howls and rustles and calls. When everything went quiet, that meant an apex predator was moving through. When the pitch got higher, something was scared. When it dropped low, something was hunting. Day 14 changed everything. Hana was studying the choir's nesting area when she noticed the pattern. Every creature in the forest responded to specific sounds. But more than that, they created sounds that other species recognized. Warning calls that everyone understood, regardless of species. The forest had a language. Not words, not grammar, but communication. Complex, layered, acoustic communication that every creature participated in. She tested the theory that afternoon. A crystal-fanged cat, not Jinwu, a different one, was stalking her again. She used her equipment to broadcast the low-frequency rumble that meant apex predator approaching, in the forest's language. The cat stopped stalking. It looked around nervously. Then it left, slinking away to find easier prey. Hana sat down hard. Her whole body was shaking, but not from fear, from excitement. This was it. This was the key. The forest wasn't randomly violent. It was symphonically territorial. Every creature was both an instrument and a listener in an endless acoustic conversation. But understanding the language wasn't enough. Her body was breaking down. The cut on her leg wasn't healing right, even with nanites. She was developing a fever. One of the quills had pierced her shoulder during that gorilla thing encounter, and now the wound was infected. Green veins spread from the injury site. Her medical scanner showed the infection was resisting the nanites. On day 15, she could barely walk. She needed water. Clean water. She stumbled toward a stream she had mapped as relatively safe. Her vision was blurry. Her hands shook. She collapsed at the water's edge. The world spun. She tried to drink, but her hands wouldn't work properly. This was it. This was how it ended. Not from an attack. From something as simple as an infection. Hana closed her eyes and thought about Jiho's compass in her pack. About Kwan's worried face. About everyone who said she wouldn't survive. They were right. Something touched her arm. She forced her eyes open. Couldn't focus. A shape loomed over her. Massive, reptilian. Eyes glowing in the dim light. 6 eyes, 3 on each side of a wedge-shaped head. Bioluminescent markings ran down its body, pulsing red. The River Reaper. The report said it killed by drowning its prey. This was the creature that had taken 8 researchers in 1 week. Hana tried to move. Couldn't. The creature's head came closer. She could smell its breath. Warm. Metallic. Please, she whispered. The creature stopped. Its markings shifted from red to orange. Then yellow, then blue. It tilted its head. Hana's grandmother had taught her a lullaby when she was small. A simple melody. Something about stars and sleep and safety. She didn't know why, but she started humming it. Her voice was weak, barely there. The creature's markings shifted to deeper blue. Purple. Colors she didn't have names for. It opened its mouth. Hana waited for teeth. Instead, the creature made a sound. Low and resonant. Almost musical. Then it backed away and slid into the water. Hana lay there, too weak to move, too confused to understand what had just happened. She closed her eyes. When she woke, it was darker. She was still alive. That seemed wrong somehow. Something heavy landed next to her head. She flinched, looked a dead animal, something like a rabbit but with 6 legs and feathers. Fresh kill. Still warm. She looked toward the water. The River Reaper floated there, watching. Its markings were soft blue, almost gentle. It had brought her food. Over the next days, Hana was too sick to move far. She stayed near the water. The creature, she started calling it Borum, a name that meant valuable, brought her food every day. Sometimes twice a day, small prey that she could cook over a careful fire. She watched Borum's light patterns, started to recognize meanings. Red was aggression. Blue was calm. Green was curiosity. Yellow was caution. The patterns could combine, creating complex messages. Using her equipment, Hana recorded the patterns. Then she programmed her scanner to create light in the same sequences. She started simple: gratitude, safety, pain. Borum responded. His lights flashed in acknowledgement, understanding. By day 30, Hana could stand again. The infection had cleared. Her strength was returning, and she could walk beside Borum without fear. Other predators that came to the water took one look at them and left. She had done something the reports said was impossible. She had made a friend in the forest that eats people. Borum rumbled softly. His lights pulsed steady blue. Hana reached out carefully and touched his scaled hide. Warm, alive. Thank you, she said. The lights pulsed brighter. She thought it might mean you're welcome, or maybe it meant family. In the Jade Maw, maybe those meant the same thing. With Borum beside her, the forest felt different, less like a death trap, more like a puzzle she was learning to solve. On day 32, Hana decided to find Jinwoo again. The crystal-fanged cat had been the first to meet her, the first to teach her that the forest could be understood. She wanted to see him again. She and Borum traveled through territories she had mapped. The choir spotted them from above and sang out warnings to other predators. Clear the path. The River Reaper walks with the strange two legs. Hana found Jinwoo's territory by following the acoustic markers, the low-frequency hums that marked his hunting ground. She found scratch marks on trees, crystal shavings where he had sharpened his teeth on rocks. Then she found his den. It was hidden under a fallen tree, behind thick ferns. She wouldn't have seen it except for the sound. Tiny mewling cries, baby sounds. Jinwoo appeared from the shadows, moving between Hana and the den. His fur stood up. His crystal teeth glowed with reflected light. This wasn't the cautious cat from day one. This was a parent protecting children. Hana stopped, held up her hands. Borum stayed back, understanding somehow that this needed to be just between her and Jinwoo. I'm not here to hurt them, she said softly. Jinwoo growled, deep and threatening. Hana sat down, made herself small, non-threatening. She pulled out a food ration and ate it slowly, showing she wasn't hunting. Just visiting. They stayed like that for an hour. Jinwoo watching, Hana eating and pretending not to care. Finally, 3 small shapes tumbled out of the den. Cubs, each one no bigger than her hand, covered in soft blue fuzz. Their crystal teeth were just tiny points. They saw Hana and froze. One brave cub crept forward. Jinwoo made a warning sound, but the cub ignored it. It sniffed Hana's boot, then climbed onto her leg. Hana barely breathed. The cub's tiny claws pricked through her pants. It looked up at her with huge yellow eyes. Then it purred, a sound like wind chimes. Jinwoo relaxed. If his cub trusted the strange two legs, maybe he could too. Over the next week, Hana helped Jinwoo hunt. She learned that his crystal teeth could sense electromagnetic fields. He could track prey by the tiny electrical signals their muscles made. When she helped him bring down a large herbivore, Jinwoo let her approach the den. Let her touch the cubs. By day 38, Jinwoo followed her and Borum through the forest. 3 predators that should never have been together, walking like old friends. The choir was next. Hana had been studying them since day 2. 17 bodies sharing one mind. They nested in the high canopy where the trees grew so thick that sunlight barely reached. She climbed up to meet them. Used climbing gear and determination and a prayer that they wouldn't decide to eat her on the way up. The nest was massive, made of woven vines and shed snakeskin and bones. So many bones. The 17 bodies coiled together in a living knot, all watching her with black eyes. Hana broadcast their own hunting frequency back at them through her scanner. A greeting in their language. The bodies untangled. They surrounded her on all sides but didn't attack. She spent 3 days in the canopy with them, learning their patterns, understanding how one consciousness controlled 17 bodies. It was like watching a conversation where all the participants were the same person. They showed her their memories, not in words, in coordinated movements and sounds. They had been attacked by something from outside the forest. Metal birds that breathe fire. The choir had lost 3 bodies in that attack. 3 parts of themselves burned away. The previous research teams. They had tried to capture specimens. had used flame weapons when the forest fought back. Hana felt sick. No wonder the forest killed intruders. They had learned that strangers meant fire and death. She showed the choir her own memories. Using pictures on her scanner. The ship in orbit. Her sleeping in the forest. Borm bringing her food. She showed them that not all strangers came to hurt. The choir sang. All 17 bodies together. A song that made her bones vibrate. Then they touched her. Light touches with their wingtips. She was part of them now. Part of their memories. When she climbed down, the choir followed. They became her scouts. Her early warning system. Nothing moved in the forest without them knowing. Day 40 brought Taeyang. Hana heard his distress first. A deep bellowing that made the ground shake. She followed the sound with Borum and Jinwoo and the choir circling overhead. She found him in a sinkhole. A massive creature covered in armor plates and moss. Like a bear crossed with a turtle crossed with a mountain. He had fallen in and couldn't climb out. His leg was broken. The smartest thing would have been to leave him. He was enormous, dangerous, probably capable of crushing her without trying, but he was hurt. And Hana had never been very good at the smart thing. It took 3 days to free him. She used vines as ropes, directed Borum to push from below while Jinwoo and the others helped pull. Taeyang was too heavy, too stuck. On the 3rd day, Hana climbed down into the sinkhole with him. She used her medical nanites on his leg. The injector wasn't designed for creatures his size, but she used everything she had. His armor was too thick. She had to find soft spots between the plates. Taeyang could have killed her 100 times. Instead, he stayed still. Let her work. Trusted her like Borum had trusted her. Like Jinwoo had trusted her. When the nanites finally took effect, when the bone started to knit and the swelling went down, Taeyang pushed himself up. Used his good legs and sheer determination. Hana and Borum pulled from above. Jinwoo cleared debris. The choir sang encouragement. Taeyang emerged from the sinkhole like a mountain coming to life. He looked at Hana. Then he pressed his massive head against her chest, careful not to crush her. His purr felt like an earthquake. He followed her after that. A living fortress. When she slept, he positioned himself nearby. His seismic sense could detect movement through the ground. Nothing could sneak up on them with Taeyang on watch. Day 45 brought Mira. Hana didn't find Mira. Mira found her. One moment, Hana was studying a strange flower. The next, the flower moved, not a flower. Mira. An ambush predator with skin that could mimic anything. Mantis-like front legs, tentacles instead of back legs, intelligence burning in compound eyes. Mira had been watching Hana for days, studying her like Hana studied the forest. When she finally revealed herself, it wasn't to attack, it was to show Hana a puzzle. Mira had found Hana's dropped equipment from weeks ago, a broken scanner. Mira had arranged the pieces in a pattern. A question. Can you fix this? Hana sat down and assembled the pieces, showed Mira how they fit together. Mira watched, learned, then found more broken things and brought them to Hana. Pieces of old research equipment, bones, interesting rocks. Shiny things, they played pattern games. Hana would arrange colored stones. Mira would rearrange them in new patterns, more complex, more beautiful. Mira wasn't just smart, she was creative. By evening, Mira had joined the family. She brought Hana things before Hana knew she needed them. Medical plants when Hana felt sick. Water containers. Safe paths through dangerous territory. Mira could see problems before they happened and solved them. On day 45, Hana sat at her camp surrounded by creatures that had killed trained soldiers in seconds. Borum rested with his head in her lap. Jinwoo's cubs played with her bootlaces. The choir roosted overhead. Taeyang slept nearby, his breathing like distant thunder. Mira arranged stones into beautiful spirals. Hana checked her beacon. 15 days left. Halfway through her mission, she was supposed to be collecting data, writing reports, preparing evidence. Instead, she had built something impossible. A family made of apex predators and one stubborn human who refused to see them as monsters. The forest hummed around her, content, safe. For the first time in her life, Hana felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Captain Doyen Park stared at his monitor and wondered if he was losing his mind. The data couldn't be right. Dr. Hana Lee's vital signs showed she was healthy, active, moving freely through the jade maw. The same forest, that had killed 17 teams was now showing, her beacon signal accompanied by multiple large biosignatures, moving together, like a pack. "Run diagnostics again," he told his second officer. Mion shook her head. "Sir, we've run them 6 times. The equipment is working perfectly. She's alive, and she's not alone." Doyun pulled up the location data. Hana had covered more territory in the last week than any previous team had in their entire missions. She had visited areas marked as extreme danger zones, places where death was supposed to be certain. "Send a drone," he ordered. "I need to see this with my own eyes." The reconnaissance drone launched 2 hours later. It descended through the canopy carefully, following Hana's beacon. Doyen watched the feed with his entire senior staff crowded around the monitors. The drone found her in a clearing beside a stream. Nobody spoke for a full minute. Hana sat on a fallen log, writing in her journal. A massive reptilian creature rested beside her, its head in her lap. She was scratching behind its eye ridge like someone petting a very large dog. Crystal-fanged cats played nearby. 3 cubs tumbled over each other while an adult watched calmly. Flying serpents circled overhead in perfect formation. Something enormous and covered in moss slept in the background, and something that kept changing colors picked up stones and arranged them in patterns. As they watched, Hana looked up at the drone. She smiled and waved. "Get me every angle," Doyen said quietly. "Record everything." The footage reached the Eternal Horizons mainframe within minutes. From there it spread. Officers shared it with scientists. Scientists shared it with colleagues on other ships. Those colleagues shared it with research stations. Research stations shared it across the galactic network. Within 6 hours, the video of a human woman sitting peacefully among the deadliest predators in surveyed space had been viewed by billions. The reactions came fast. The Kalari Scouts Council sent an official inquiry. How had she trained the creatures? What techniques did she use? They offered to trade 3 star systems for the information. The Vorthian Rangers claimed the footage was falsified. No one could survive the Jade Maw, much less befriend its inhabitants. They demanded an investigation. The Galactic Colonial Council held an emergency session. The sterilization order was immediately suspended. They needed to understand what was happening before they destroyed anything. Xenobiologists across 20 star systems began submitting requests to study Hana's methods. Universities offered funding. Research grants appeared. Media outlets wanted interviews. Back on the Eternal Horizon, Dr. Quan Cho watched the footage for the 100th time. Tears ran down his face. "She did it," he whispered. "That crazy kid actually did it." But not everyone was happy. In a private meeting room, Commander Hyun-suk reviewed the footage with cold eyes. He was military, career soldier. He saw things differently than scientists. "These creatures could be weapons," he said. Beside him, corporate executive Nari Choi nodded eagerly. "The applications are endless: security, military, even entertainment. If one human can control them, we can train others. Build an industry." Hyun-suk pulled up tactical data. A single River Reaper took out 8 armed researchers. These crystal cats can cut through titanium. Those flying serpents operate as a hive mind. With proper training, they could be the most effective fighting force in the galaxy. "We need specimens," Nari said. "Live ones. For study and breeding programs. And we need the woman," Hyun added. "She's the key to controlling them." They began assembling a landing party. Not scientists, soldiers, containment specialists. Corporate acquisition teams. Doyen found out too late to stop it. The orders came from high up, above his authority. The landing party would launch in 5 days with full authorization to secure specimens by any means necessary. He sent an encrypted message to Hana's beacon. A warning. Hana received the message on day 50. She sat by the stream with her family around her and read it 3 times. They were coming. Military, corporate. They saw her companions as resources to be extracted, weapons to be controlled, products to be sold. Borum sensed her distress. His bioluminescent markings shifted to yellow-orange. Concerned, questioning. "They want to take you," she said softly. "Put you in cages. Study you. Use you," Jinwoo growled. The choir's song turned sharp and aggressive. Taeyang's armor plates rattled. Mira's tentacles coiled tight. They understood. Maybe not the exact words, but the meaning. Danger was coming. The kind that wore metal skin and carried fire weapons. Hana spent the next 4 days preparing. She taught her family about the ships that would come, about humans who weren't like her, about metal and weapons and cages. The forest responded in ways she didn't expect. Creatures that had never approached her before came to the clearing. Herbivores that normally fled from predators, small scavengers, even the territorial gorilla things that had chased her in week 1, they all gathered, watching, waiting. The choir showed her something through their memories, a communication network that connected the entire forest. Every creature contributed to it. Every creature listened. The Jade Maw wasn't just a collection of predators. It was an ecosystem that could think collectively when threatened. Can you show them I mean no harm? Hana asked the choir. Can you make them understand that not all humans are enemies, but some are? The choir sang. The song spread through the canopy, down into the soil, across the streams. Every creature heard it. The forest had eaten 17 teams because those teams came with fire and cages. But one human had come with open hands and patience. One human had learned names instead of firing weapons. One human had healed instead of harmed. The forest would protect her, because she was part of it now. On day 55, Hana stood at the edge of the clearing where the landing party would arrive. Doyen's message said they would come in the morning. Heavy weapons, containment fields, authorization to use force. Borum stood beside her. Jinwoo and his family flanked her other side. The choir circled overhead. Taeyang positioned himself behind her like a living wall. Mira blended with the shadows, ready to assist, but they weren't alone. The entire forest had gathered. Hundreds of creatures, predators and prey standing side by side, silent, united. Hana checked Jiho's compass. Still pointing north. Still pointing home. But home wasn't the ship anymore. Home was here, in the forest. With her impossible family, she heard the engines. The landing party was coming. Hana took a deep breath. She had survived the forest. Now she had to survive her own species. She touched Borum's scaled hide. Ready? His markings pulsed steady blue. Ready. The forest around them hummed in agreement. Ready. Morning light filtered through the canopy. The engines grew louder. The landing party descended into a forest that was done being hunted. This time, the Jade Maw would show them what protection looked like. This time, the forest had a champion who could speak for it, and her name was Hana Lee. The landing ship touched down in the clearing at dawn. The door opened with a hiss of hydraulics. 12 soldiers stepped out in full combat armor. Commander Hyun Suk led them, his hand resting on his plasma rifle. Behind the soldiers came Nari Choi in a climate-controlled suit, followed by 6 containment specialists with equipment designed to cage anything that moved. Hana stood waiting for them. Alone, it seemed. Hyun scanned the clearing with tactical eyes. Too quiet. The report said this place was always active, always dangerous. Now it felt empty. Wrong. Dr. Lee, he called out. We're here to extract you and secure specimens for study. Please cooperate and this will go smoothly. Hana didn't move. You're not taking anyone. Nari stepped forward, her smile fake and bright. Dr. Lee, you've made an incredible discovery. These creatures have applications that could benefit all of humanity. Medical research, security, defense, we just need a few samples. They're not samples, Hana said. They're people. This is their home. Hyun's patience was thin. They're animals. Dangerous ones. We have authorization to secure them by any means necessary. Now step aside or you'll be charged with obstruction. No, Hana said simply. Hyun gestured to his soldiers. They raised their weapons and moved forward. The forest exploded into motion. Borum rose from the stream where he had been waiting underwater. His massive form blocked 3 soldiers. His bioluminescent markings blazed red. A warning. Jinwoo and his family appeared from the undergrowth on both flanks, crystal teeth glowing. Not attacking, just present, surrounding. The choir dropped from the canopy, 17 bodies forming a living net above the landing party. Their coordinated humming made the air vibrate. Taeyang stepped out from behind trees that couldn't have hidden something his size. The ground shook with each footfall, armor plates rattling like thunder. Mira shimmered into visibility right behind Nari Choi. The executive screamed and stumbled forward. The soldiers spun in all directions, trying to cover every threat at once, impossible. They were surrounded, but that wasn't all. From every shadow, Every tree, every patch of undergrowth, more creatures emerged. The gorilla things with venomous quills, acid spitters from the streams, ambush hunters and pack predators and solitary killers, herbivores that could crush bones with their hooves, scavengers with teeth like razors. Species that normally killed each other on sight stood shoulder to shoulder, predator and prey united, all watching the humans with intelligent eyes. Hundreds of creatures, maybe thousands, all perfectly still, all waiting for Hana's signal. Commander Hyun had fought in 3 wars. He had faced overwhelming odds before, but he had never seen anything like this. Perfect coordination, perfect discipline, an entire ecosystem operating as one military unit. What is this? He breathed. This is a family, Hana said. She walked forward and the creatures parted for her. Borum followed at her right, Jinwoo at her left. This is what happens when you listen instead of shooting, when you learn names instead of target classifications. Nari's voice shook. This is impossible. These creatures are non-sentient. They can't organize, can't communicate. They communicate just fine, Hana interrupted. Humans just never bothered to learn their language. You came here with weapons and cages. You treated them like resources. They defended themselves. What did you expect? She reached the commander, looked up at him. He was armed, armored, and had 11 soldiers backing him up, but his hands shook slightly. You have a choice, Hana said. Leave peacefully. Let me finish my research the way it should be done, or try to take what isn't yours and find out why 17 previous teams died here. Hyun looked around at the assembled creatures. His tactical training screamed at him. This wasn't a fight they could win. One River Reaper had killed 8 armed researchers. There were dozens of similar creatures here, plus things he didn't recognize, things that looked even more dangerous. His soldiers knew it too. He could see it in their body language, the way they held their weapons, ready to fire but not eager to die. We have orders, Hyun said, but his voice lacked conviction. Orders from people who don't understand what this place is, Hana said. She gestured to the forest around them. This isn't a resource to be harvested. It's a civilization, different from ours but no less valid, no less deserving of respect. She pulled out her data pad and brought up her research, months of observations, recordings of acoustic communication, maps of territories and social structures, evidence of complex problem-solving, tool use, cooperative behavior across species lines. Everything I've learned is here, she said. Proof that the Jade Maw isn't just dangerous. It's sophisticated, intelligent. If you try to cage these creatures, you'll be committing an act of violence against sentient beings. Is that really what the Council wants? Nari pushed forward. Sentient? They're animals. This is anthropomorphization at its worst. Mira moved, fast, too fast. One tentacle wrapped around Nari's wrist. Gentle but firm. Mira's other appendages picked up 3 stones and arranged them in a complex pattern, a mathematical sequence, a demonstration of intelligence. Then Mira released Nari and backed away. Nari stared at her wrist, at the stones, at Mira's compound eyes that held unmistakable awareness. Oh, she whispered. The choir sang, a complex melody that shifted through frequencies that made patterns in the air. It wasn't just sound, it was language, poetry. A song about the forest and the human who learned to listen. Commander Hyun lowered his weapon. This isn't what we expected. No, Hana agreed. It's better. He was silent for a long moment, looking at the creatures, at Hana standing fearless among apex predators, at his soldiers who were surrounded and outmatched but unharmed. If we leave, he said slowly, what happens to this place? It becomes what it should have been from the start, Hana said. A place for study. For learning, not exploitation. I'll stay. I'll document everything. I'll teach others how to approach this ecosystem with respect. But no cages, no weapons, no taking without consent. The Council won't like it. The Council will have to adapt, Hana said. Just like I did. Hyun looked at his second officer. They had a silent conversation with eye contact alone. Then he nodded. All right, Dr. Lee. We'll report that the Jade Maw requires specialized diplomatic protocols. That standard extraction methods are inadvisable, that your research should continue under current parameters. He paused. For what it's worth, I've never seen anything like this. It's remarkable. Thank you, Hana said. The landing party withdrew, slowly, carefully. The creatures watched them leave, but didn't attack. As the ship engines fired up, Hana raised her hand in farewell. Commander Hyun, visible through the cockpit window, saluted back. The ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky. The forest erupted in celebration. The choir sang victory songs. Taeyang's rumbling purr made the ground shake. Jinwoo's cubs tackled Hana's legs, and she laughed and fell into the soft grass. Borum's markings cycled through every color of joy. Mira danced on her many legs, tentacles waving. Creatures that had stood ready to fight now dispersed peacefully, back to their territories, their hunts, their lives. But something had changed. They had stood together, protected one of their own. They would remember. Hana lay in the grass with her impossible family piled around her. She pulled out Jiho's compass, still pointing north. Still pointing home? I'm home, she said to the sky. I'm finally home. 6 months later, the Jade Maw research station opened. Scientists from a dozen species came to study under Hana's guidance, learning the language of the forest. Building relationships instead of taking samples, the Kalari called her the forest speaker. The Vorthians called her the alpha who walks on 2 legs. The humans called her a xenobiological pioneer. But in the forest, she was simply Hana, the strange 2 legs who learned to listen, who gave names to creatures without words, who proved that humanity's greatest strength wasn't weapons or technology. It was the ability to make family out of the impossible. Every evening, she sat with Borum by the stream. Jinwoo's newest litter of cubs played nearby. The choir roosted overhead. Taeyang kept watch. Mira brought her interesting stones, and the forest sang around them. A symphony of life, of understanding, of hope. Captain Doyen Park visited one evening. He stood at the edge of the clearing watching Hana laugh as the cubs tried to climb Taeyang's armored back. Any regrets? He asked. Hana looked at him. At her family. At the forest that had tried to kill her and became her home. Not one, she said. The forest hummed in agreement. Not one.